Hello everyone and welcome to another video. So this video is going to be my weekly circle up. I'm bringing back this weekly circle up as I figure it's a good way to check in and get you guys caught up on what's been going on in the week, any fun stuff and plans I've been going on, talk about, the books that I have finished this past week, if I finished any, and where I'm at in my current reads. Let's talk about, honestly, what's been going on this week outside of my reading. Then I'll get into what I finished, and then I'll talk about my current reads. So, not a lot has been happening this week, because I I technically work a 9-to-5 job. My 9 to 5 hours are a little bit different than most 9 to 5 hours too, but I do work a 40-hour work week. So during the week, and since I work Monday through Friday, not a lot has been essentially going on in terms of that. Potentially, we've been starting to plan. My work does this Halloween trunk or treat for the little kids, so we've been starting to plan at least essentially what our group is doing for that. Nothing else really with work has been happening, but I have gone to a couple of car shows with my dad. My dad drives a 79 Pontiac Trans Am, and I've been going with him to some car shows on weekends. I really like doing that. They're quite fun to get out of the house for a couple hours. And I like hanging out with my dad. He's a cool dude. I don't get to spend a lot of time with him anyways with our work schedule. Our work schedule, it really doesn't coincide for us to get together during the work week. So during the weekends, we have time to play and goof off. And because I like handling him, and I do like looking at old cars, I'm also going to put in a couple of old clips from what happened back in September that I didn't show in Sunday. Was essentially we went to our town's local September Fest, and I got a couple of clips, so I think I'll put that here in this video to get them out. And our September Fest is sort of like a vendor style, a whole bunch of local vendors come and they give out treats and freebies and stuff. One of the stands we stop at is a local bake sale for our local community pantry. So that's fun to shop at. Of course, we have a local animal shelter booth, and they have, of course, baby kittens and puppies and stuff. So I'll show you the clips I got at, because who doesn't love to see baby animals? So I'll show you the clips of that. So, now we're getting into the book and that was A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. So, which I do now realize after reading it, it's not set in a fictional world, but who cares anyways? I really don't care because it's set somewhere that's not technically on Earth. So this book is technically set on the moon. Essentially, after something happened to Earth, they all had to be inhabited towards the moon. And it's about this guy named Dex. He is a tea monk, which I really like the concept of like tea. And essentially, he's a monk. And they usually can stay at their convent to do a secret project, but Dex decides that he's going to actually do his secret project outside of the convent and go out. So he ventures out, and he's a tea monk. So what that means is essentially he sets up a little tea station, and people come to him seeking guidance, and he offers them a cup of tea and listens to them and talks with them. Essentially, in this story, he also meets a robot, which the robots were feeling like really oppressed and dumped by society, and they decided that they had enough and all left and escaped to the wilderness. And it's about these two unlikely people, even though one's a robot, coming together and realizing that they have quite a few in common with each other. And it's essentially about the robot acclimating to the teachings that the monk is teaching them. They're good company with each other, and it's about them sort of learning to understand and grow with each other. So I did finish that. It's a very short book. I read it on my Kindle, and it is the first book I have finished in the month of October. So I ended up giving it it ended up getting a 4 stars. It got a 8 for characters, 8 for atmosphere, 10 for writing, 7 for plot, 6 for intrigue, 7 for logic, and an 8 for enjoyment. So a 7.71 out of 10, which is a 4-star. It is a low star. I actually got this book off of recommendation from Maddie from Book Browsing Blog, as she likes Becky Chambers, and she likes like science fiction, but I actually like typical science fiction books, like your books set in space, your journey style science fiction books like The Martian by Andy Weir. I ended up really enjoying that book. Oh, I'm thinking The Illuminate Files by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I haven't really read a whole bunch of other like science fiction books, if you count like dystopian, that are typically science fiction, but I like those stories more than I particularly liked this one. I found it to be... I liked how it was sort of easy for me to read, but it felt very... like I couldn't really get into the characters as much. I wasn't really forming a connection with the characters. It was a very slow-paced story. And I do like slow-paced story if I find myself getting attached to the characters. Towards as I was reading this book, all I wanted to do was read it to get it over with since it's so short. I didn't really form that special connection with the characters. So I'm not entirely certain if I will be continuing with this series or not. We'll have to really think about it as time goes on, since I don't really have a drive to pick up the second one since it is out. I don't really have that drive. It's possible that if I would have listened to it and read it along, I may have felt that drive better. So that may be what happens with it. It was still a really good book. I really enjoyed the writing style. There are some really good quotes for you to take away from. And sort of, if you really dig into what is actually going on, there's a whole lot you can take away from it. But what really set it apart for me was I thought it was very slow paced. I just really couldn't gel with the characters all that much. They're good, thought out characters. I just couldn't gel with them. I felt like I never really got the backstory of the robot, and that's kind of what I missed. And you don't really get a whole bunch of like backstory from Dex. Like, did he grow up in the convent? Was he forced to join the convent? What entirely happened? You don't really learn and figure out that they're on the moon till later. And it's like, well, how did they get to the moon? What actually happened on Earth to where they had to jump ship and leave and colonize the moon? They start colonizing from the beginning. When exactly was it the robots kind of decided that they've had enough and escaped to the wilderness? How is there a wilderness on the moon? You never really learn that. And honestly, that's what kind of more what I want. Is I really like stories, especially science fiction stories, where you learn more about the how and why. And in this book, we sort of really didn't get it. But I am glad that it got 4 stars for me. And it's a possibility as to if I'll continue. We'll probably read the synopsis of the second one before I read it to see if I think it'll give me more of the information that I want. But I probably am going to continue, and I want to kind of at least try more of Becky Chambers' works, as she does have in her story, at least science fiction, that I think I'm really going to enjoy, which is A Long Way to a Small Alien Planet. I really do think I'm going to like that one. So the next book on my TBR that I am currently working on, I am reading The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I started this book on Monday. Today is Sunday. And I am around 454 pages into it. So, since the beginning of this week, I have made a dent in this book. And I'm really enjoying this book so far. We follow 3 different storylines in here. And they're all interconnecting. And I am really loving that. As normally, usually, books where there's 3 different storylines, sometimes they don't meet up, but these 3 different stories in this book have been interconnected since the very beginning, and I absolutely love it. I'll read you guys the synopsis of the back of the book since I'm this far in. So it is, the House of Brethnet has ruled in us for 1,000 years. Still unwed, Queen Sabran IX must conceive a daughter to protect her realm from destruction, but assassins are getting closer to her door. Eve Duran is an outsider at court. Though she has risen to the position of lady-in-waiting, she is loyal to a hidden society of mages. Eve keeps a watchful eye on Sabran, secretly protecting her forbidden magic. Across the sea, Tane has trained to be a dragon rider since she was a child, but is forced to make a choice that could see her life unravel. Meanwhile, the divided East and West refuse to parley, and forces of chaos are rising from their sleep. There's a whole lot of going on in this book. So essentially, we do find out what the Priory of the Orange Tree is in this actual book, which I absolutely love when you find out what the actual title of a book means later on in the book and the whole backstory in that. This book is actually really hard to describe since it's 3 different stories. But I'm really enjoying this book so far. I really love the dynamic between Ede and Sabran. They work really well together. And I'm pretty certain from what I've read, and it's sort of really picking up, that this is a sapphic story. And I have read a couple of other sapphic female-female romance stories in the past. And I'm really liking it done in this book, as there's another LGBTQ plus relationship and our LGBTQ plus character in this book. And when you get more than one, it really hits with me, so I'm really liking that. I'm really enjoying the atmosphere of this book. It's not a very, it's easy to understand the language of what they're talking about and actually suck yourself into this world. Very easy to do that. It's very also, while it is a thick book, the writing is fairly big, but it has taken me a while to read. And I think it's because, honestly, it's just a big book. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the writing style in this book. This is actually technically my first Samantha Shannon book that I'm going to finish. But we will definitely continue with her Bone Season series, as I'm really enjoying the writing style in this. And I will definitely be continuing with that dystopian science fiction stories. I do really like my dystopian science fiction. So definitely continue with that. I'm really enjoying the plot of it so far. I like how, as I've said earlier, I like how the stories in this are interwoven. I think that's a brilliant concept of interwoven stories. Intrigue, because it's based off of a tale, and I kind of know how the tale is going to end, as I've sort of predicted between Eden and Sabra and how their story is going to end. But the other two, I do not know, so there's a little bit still of high intrigue. Logic, not entirely certain. Logic's a little bit harder for me to rate at this point of the read, but I'm really enjoying the logic in this book, as I do think that the magic system in this works really well, as there isn't really a magic system. They talk about alchemy, and so far it's still the same. That is the magic in this book, because it's more of alchemy and like your traditional actual magic, I think. And I actually really do think that this could have been a real place. It's very Lord of the Rings-esque. You could say it's also Game of Thrones-esque, but I think it's more Lord of the Rings-esque in terms of the atmosphere it's bringing. And the logic system works really well. I love like dragon riders and stuff and the concept of that. So I think that's really cool. And yeah, I'm really enjoying this book. I can't wait to read more, hopefully by the next Circle Up I'll have finished this book. So there you have it. That is my weekly Circle Up for this past week here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Comment down below when this goes up what you guys have been catching up with so far. What you guys have been reading. What you guys have been doing. What you guys have been watching. Hopefully into my Circle Ups we'll start to talk about the TV shows and stuff that I'm watching, as I'm starting to really get back into like watching TV shows and stuff. Don't forget to give this video a like if you liked it, and subscribe for more bookish content from me. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and remember, we are the one within the all.